Caleb, my adoptive son. Slammed the eviction notice against my chest hard enough to crumple it, hard enough to make the corner bite my skin. The paper smelled like toner and cheap courage. 30 days, he said, jaw tight, not meeting my eyes. Bree hovered behind him in a lemon sweater, arms folded for warmth or judgment. I couldn't tell which. My canvas suitcase sat by the door like a witness. One handle frayed, the brass tag with my initials dulled to a thumbprint shine. Before I could unfold the notice, my phone lit up. I hit speaker because my hands were shaking. Ruth, it's Lyle from Market Street, came the voice, store bell and fryer hiss in the background. We need your decision on the insurance for your entire block. Gas leak in one of your buildings. The kitchen went desert silent. The clock over the sink ticked like it wanted to leave first. Caleb's eyes finally met mine, cold and startled. Bree's lips parted around a word she didn't say. Decision, by when? I asked, steadying the phone on the counter. 48 hours, Ruth, Lyle said. City shuts the street if coverage isn't confirmed. You know what that means. I did. Shuttered stores, boarded glass. Every tenant I'd ever stood up for out on the sidewalk. I folded the eviction notice with the same care I used on pharmacy receipts and funeral programs, slid it into the suitcase side pocket, and looked my son in the face. Seems we both brought a deadline, I said. Caleb swallowed. Bree went stone still. The suitcase handle warmed under my palm like it remembered me. 48 hours, Lyle repeated, softer this time, like he knew what that length of rope could do. City's leak inspector flagged 312 Market. If the coverage isn't confirmed, they red tag the whole street. Understood, I said. Send me the incident number and the policy language you're relying on. Old habits. Get the paper, get the clause. I ended the call and slid the phone into the outer pocket of my suitcase. Caleb moved first, scraping a palm down his face. Mom, Ruth, this isn't your problem anymore. Bree found her voice. You should, focus on your next chapter. We'll manage the block. You'll try, I said. I pulled a ballpoint from behind the microwave, wrote 2 lines on the back of a grocery receipt. Locks. Monday, 9 a.m. insurance. 48 hours. I capped the pen with a click that sounded like a door latching. But right now, the next chapter is the same as the last one. Keep Market Street from dying. Bree's phone lit up, notifications hopping like minnows. She turned it over face down. Caleb's fingers drummed the counter, 3 taps. A breath, 3 taps. You can stay through the weekend, he said, aiming for magnanimous and landing on managerial. But Monday the contractor's here. We're changing locks. Don't spend money you don't have, I told him. Contractors ask for deposits. He stared at me as if the word had bitten him. I unzipped the suitcase an inch and dropped the folded eviction notice inside. Paper on paper, proof kissing proof. My phone chimed again. Email from Lyle with a PDF of the city notice. The inspector's name in gray. The box checked. Potential ignition source. Emergency mitigation recommended. Another ping. My broker. Subject line. Binder confirmation pending rider acceptance. I skimmed. Lips moving with the words. Hazardous condition endorsement. Deductible. Temporary business interruption coverage. I knew the architecture of these sentences better than my own house. Across the counter, Bree tucked hair behind her ear. Are you insured? Personally. For my buildings, I said. For this conversation, apparently not. I zipped the suitcase fully. The brass tag knocked softly against the teeth like a heartbeat. Out the window, Cedar Ridge looked exactly like it always did when trouble came. The sky too bright, the pickup trucks angled like folded knives in front of the hardware store. Nice town. Plenty of help if you're the right age for a ribbon cutting, invisible if you're the one who put the first ribbon there. I set my phone timer for 47 hours and change, because you always lose some to phone trees and polite hold music. I'll be at Maple, I said, wheeling the suitcase toward the door. Call if you find the contractor's license number. I love verified professionals. Mom, Caleb started, but the word broke in his mouth. I didn't wait for the end. The suitcase hummed over the threshold. the wheels catching on the strip like a hesitation before a promise. On the porch, the air smelled like wet cedar and fryer oil drifting from Market Street. I could hear the hawks practicing whistle, thud, cheer, like a clock counting down that nobody else could hear. I tightened my grip on the handle until the frayed webbing warmed under my palm. 47 hours to keep a street alive. 3 days until someone else tried to put a key in my door. My timer blinked. 47 hours, 2 minutes and 19 seconds. The bank smelled like lemon floor cleaner and worry. Sunlight came in hard through the tall windows and flattened everyone into paper cutouts. I tugged my suitcase in behind me and took a red plastic token from the dispenser. 87. The screen above the teller row blinked 62 like it had all day to get anywhere. Next, a teller called, not to me. A young man in a fleece vest jogged up, phone to ear, talking about venture tranches like Cedar Ridge sold them by the pound. I sat on the vinyl bench. The suitcase nudged my knee like a reminder to stay put. My phone buzzed. A notification from Bree on a platform I never gave permission to learn. A new video, selfie lit, her lemon sweater glowing like a sermon. Caption: setting boundaries with relatives, especially when they feel entitled. I pressed mute before the sound, watched the words appear in squares under her mouth. Sometimes you need to protect your energy. Comments bubbled up fast, little fireworks of approval. You're so brave. Blood isn't family. Stay strong, queen. The algorithm liked a tidy villain. Han, can I help you with something? A floor rep materialized, smile, badge lanyard, guiding me as if I were a stroller. Need to confirm insurance escrow release on a commercial policy and wire instructions, I said. Her smile held, but her eyes flicked to my suitcase like it might have a parole officer inside. We have a great online portal for that, she said. If you could apply. Already approved, I said, passing her my printout with the reference number circled. Just need a human to hit a button a computer can't. She nodded in that slow way you reserve for stubborn toddlers and people who won't sign up for paperless billing. Let's get you a seat. And aisle. Number 63. The screen blinked. The vest kid high-fived a teller. The rep steered me back to the bench like I was a shopping cart with one bad wheel. I set the suitcase upright, unzipped the little front pocket. Inside, sticky notes, clipped articles, the kind of paper a life collects. I slid out a packet labeled Market Street, insurance, and put it on my lap where the rep could see the tabs. Rider language, deductible, business interruption, city code. She glanced at it, then back at me, unreadable. I left the bank with an appointment sometime this afternoon, which in Cedar Ridge means tomorrow if the weather stays polite. Outside, a man in a county polo held the door and called me ma'am, like an apology for existing. I tugged the suitcase down Main, past the florist who pretended not to recognize me under the brim of my ball cap, past the real estate window where Caleb's grin had once floated over sold banners like confetti. City Hall sat square and generous beside the veterans' mural. Inside, a sign pointed to community services, with a hand-drawn smiley face. The clerk behind the plexiglass wore lip gloss the color of strawberries. How can I help? She asked, voice bright as a dial tone. Leak notice for 312 Market. Need to file acceptance of coverage and ensure no shutdown on the block pending remediation, I said. I also need an inspector's availability matrix. She blinked twice like I'd spoken a brand of Latin only used for curses. We have a form online for that. I'm here now. Right, but applications are online only, she said, tapping the QR code taped to the plexiglass. It's super easy. For who? I asked, but I held my phone up anyway, scanned the code, watched the form bloom with 1,000 cheerful fields. The timer in the corner, small and mean, read 44 hours, 12 minutes, and 7 seconds. I started filling boxes. Parcel number, owner of record, contact. The drop-down menus acted like they didn't know my street existed. I double-checked spellings like it might change anything. Behind me, a councilman I'd once fed at every charity dinner slid past with a handshake for the clerk and a wink. We good for Friday? He asked her. We're good, she said. and looked at me like I was a fire drill nobody planned for. The form crashed on attach proof of coverage, then demanded I create an account with a password that needed one number, one symbol, and the patience of a saint. I set the phone down on the counter, breath even. "Print me the paper version," I said calmly. "I'll fill it here, you'll scan it into your super easy system, and we'll both pretend we did it online." She hesitated, then slid a stapled packet through the slot. "We don't, usually." "You do today," I said, already uncapping my pen. When I stepped back into daylight, the sky had slipped toward late afternoon gold, and the Hawks' practice whistles carried sharper. My suitcase bumped the city hall steps twice, like a reminder to pick up my feet. Across the street, kids did layups in the park, the ball thudding a steady metronome. I checked Bree's video one more time. 10,000 views, confetti of heart emojis, a stranger advising court papers as if they were recipes. Nice town. Plenty of kindness you can take a number for. Plenty of services you can only have if you're 28 and a password. I set my jaw and headed for the Maple Diner. Somewhere between the first coffee and the evening rush, there'd be someone trying to overcharge a woman they didn't think could read the fine print. And I, with my suitcase and my timer and my pen, had time to be seen. Maple Diner smelled like butter on hot steel and the first good coffee of the day. The chrome napkin holders held my reflection in a funhouse slice. Older, narrower, stubborn. I slid into my usual back booth, parked the suitcase beside me where the vinyl had been rubbed smooth by years of elbows, and checked the timer. 41 hours, 28 minutes, and 19 seconds glowing cold. "Ruth." Manny the cook leaned on the pass, tattoos ghosted by steam. "You want the short stack or the usual lecture about margins?" "Both," I said. A delivery guy shouldered through the door with a dolly and a clipboard. Winter wind wrapped around him like he owned it. The clipboard woman in a branded puffer followed, chewing gum and not looking up. They thunked cases of fryer oil onto the tile. Receipts fluttered like pale fish. Manny frowned at the invoice. "That can't be right." Clipboard pointed with her pen. "New fuel adjustment. 11%. Everyone's doing it." "Everyone?" I asked, voice gentle. I slid my suitcase a little closer, unzipped the front pocket, and pulled out my reading glasses and a thin folder labeled vendors. Standard terms. Old habit. Carry the rules. I held out my hand. "May I?" Clipboard hesitated, clocking the suitcase, the glasses, the age. Then she handed over the paper like she was lending a pen to a stranger on a bus. I scanned the lines. The surcharge sat like a bruise near the bottom, plus 11%, with a tiny footnote number pretending to be legitimate. I opened my folder, thumbed to a tab. "Section 4.3, I said. "Fuel surcharge is indexed to ODOT's on-highway diesel price. Adjustments require 30 days notice via certified mail to the customer of record. Cap is CPI plus 2% in any 30-day period." Clipboard stopped chewing. "It's the company policy. It's the company desire," I said, tapping the clause with my nail. "Policy is what's on the sign terms. Did you send certified notice?" I looked up, eyebrows polite. She cast a quick look at delivery guy. He studied the ketchup caddies like they might help. Manny's forearms went still on the pass. "Mind if I photograph?" I asked, already angling my phone. "For our records." She nodded, stiff. The camera clicked. I slid the invoice back across the table. "You'll reissue at the contracted rate. We'll pay right now as always." Clipboard returned with a corrected invoice. No bruise, no footnote, her tone newly respectful. "We'll honor the terms, Ms. Miller." "Ruth is fine," I said. I signed, dated, snapped a second photo, and tucked the copy into the folder. "We're all better when we do what we agreed to." As they left, Manny bent close, voice under the sizzle. "You know this stuff?" "Had to," I said, setting the folder atop the suitcase like a roof. "People add 11% when they think you won't read to the bottom." He slid me my plate, eggs over medium, hash browns crisp at the edges like good decisions. I ate slow, watching the door swing, watching Cedar Ridge in the reflection of the front window. A parade of people who liked to call me ma'am and thought it meant something else. The suitcase rested against my hip, steady as a ledger. My phone started to rattle across the table with a string of new notifications. I wiped my hands, reached for it, and felt the floor of the morning tilt. The notifications on my phone were a swarm. Bree's video had jumped the fence from petty to popular. A local wellness coach stitched it. Soft voice, hard edges. Talking about toxic elders who weaponize finances. A ring light attorney chimed in. Strangers filed me into a role they liked best. The obstacle in a younger person's hero arc. I slid the phone away when the check came. Manny tucked the bill under my coffee mug like he always did. I slipped my card across the table. He ran it and returned slower than he left, mouth set. It's declining, he said, low enough to keep my dignity, high enough to keep me honest. Run it again, I said, and watched the machine think about me. Declined like I was a risky idea. Manny started to reach for the bill. I nudged his hand back with a finger. Don't comp me. I'm not. Don't. I repeated calm. I opened the suitcase on the booth seat, the zipper rasping like a saw. I took out my checkbook and a blue pen. Pay by paper, I said. Just like we built this street. It felt old-fashioned and right to write my name like an oath. Manny carried the check to the register like a baby. I dialed the credit union while he counted coins. Cedar Ridge Community Credit Union. This is Kelsey, a bright voice said. You could hear her smile catching flies. Debit card freeze, I said. Member name Ruth Miller. Tell me why. Pause, keys ticking. Looks like, for your protection. We placed a temporary hold due to suspected elder exploitation. By whom? An online report flagged your account. A relative. Brianna, relation. Daughter-in-law, submitted concerns. My coffee went cold in my mouth. So you froze my access to my own funds during a 48-hour municipal insurance deadline because a relative with a trending video clicked a box. It's our policy to err on the side of safety for seniors, Kelsey said, softening her vowels like a bandage. On hold, I checked my ACHQ. The emergency ventilation contractor's invoice blinked yellow. 20 minutes until their daily payment window closed. If the draft didn't clear, they'd roll a truck to someone else first. Good, I said evenly when she came back. Let's be safe. Please note on the account that you have just confirmed the reporting party and basis. And now you will send me written notice of the freeze with the policy section you relied on and the process to unfreeze within 4 business hours. We usually require in-person verification with a guardian present. I have no guardian, I said. I have an LLC, 3 parcels, and a $50,000 deductible ticking toward due. Transfer me to your compliance lead. A click. Hold music like an apology. The suitcase's brass tag swung in small arcs, ticking time against the vinyl. This is Mark, the bank's compliance lead. A new voice said, older, cautious. Mr. Mark, I said, you've frozen my debit under your elder protection protocol. I support the intent. I'm documenting the misuse. Here's what we'll do. You'll conduct your wellness check now, on this recorded line, then release the hold pending a scheduled in-person visit tomorrow at 10. If you decline, I'll need your refusal in writing with the exact policy clause. We both know you're allowed discretion. A breath. Paper. Ms. Miller, do you understand your current financial obligations? Yes. Excel broker binder pending writer acceptance. Municipal leak notice. Vendor invoices at Maple. Rent abatement triggers. I also understand that your freeze will harm my tenants and the city if maintained without cause. And I have a contractor payment window closing in. I checked the queue. 18 minutes. Another paper sound, but this time it was a white flag. We can release temporarily, he said. I'll note it and send notice. Thank you, I said. Email, please, to the address on file. I'll see you at 10. I ended the call. Manny exhaled like he'd been underwater. You scare me in a good way, he said. I scare me too, I said, and smiled just enough to prove I remembered how. The phone buzzed again, this time a number I recognized. County area code. a realtor's chirp on the other end. "Hi, Ms. Miller. Zoe with Peak Realty," she sang. "Quick question. We're listing 414 Willow, Caleb's Place, and title flagged an easement across the rear lot to parcels along Market. Looks like an LLC named Miller Block Partners has right-of-way and a right of first refusal on ground lease changes. Could you sign a release so we can close?" The suitcase handle stung my palm. I saw myself in the napkin holder, smaller, brighter. "Email me the request with the title report attached," I said. "And tell Caleb he should have read before he inherited." The second line beeped. "Caleb." I let it ring into the voicemail net 3 times. "For Zoe," pressed. "It's a quick form. Buyer's hot. They want to put in a pool. The easement exists for utilities and fire access," I said. "Pools don't trump hydrants, nor do hot buyers trump recorded documents. Forward the full report." I ended the call before her training could find another cheerful way to ask me to disappear. Voicemail chimed. Caleb's voice, rushed and cutting. "I need that release by 5, Ruth. Don't be petty. This is my house. You said you wanted me to stand on my own, right? Let me sell." I set the phone face down and counted to 5. Then I opened the suitcase and pulled the slim folder with county stamps and blacking signatures like ribs, easements, and ground leases. Recorded 3 years ago when I realized love wasn't a contract anyone else had read. I emailed Zoe the parcel numbers and the clause. I copied Caleb. No commentary. Paper speaks better than a lecture. Outside, Cedar Ridge did what it always does in the late afternoon. Sun slanted over the ball field. Kids hollered like birds. The florist finally waved when she thought I wasn't looking. Inside, my timer ticked. 38 hours, 3 minutes, and 11 seconds. A new notification. Your insurance broker? Urgent. Deductible draft must clear by end of day to secure rider. The temporary release would need to work. And it would need to work now. I slid the folder back into the suitcase and snapped the metal mouth shut. The tag thudded against the vinyl like a heartbeat trying to climb out. The Cedar Lane sign hummed neon pink against the early dark, throwing candy light across a row of wet pickups. Inside, it smelled like shoe spray, lane oil, and the kind of birthday cake frosting that stains tongues. Pins toppled in sets of 10 like small promises breaking. I rolled my suitcase over the checkerboard tile. The brass tag clicked against the handle in a rhythm that matched the timer on my phone. 34 hours, 51 minutes, and 2 seconds. Ruth, a woman in a black polo, waved from the snack bar. Square jaw, steady gaze, notary stamp in a zippered pouch. "I'm Daria. I bowl on Thursdays and notarize on Thursdays." 2 birds. 2 birds, I echoed. The suitcase settled beside the orange plastic chair with a small sigh. We claimed the corner table under the faded pennants. I laid out the documents between paper boats of nachos and the napkin dispenser. Last will and testament, codicil, trust schedule, healthcare directive. Daria checked my license, read every line out loud like a spell to make it hold. "You're sure about the beneficiaries?" she asked, pen poised. "I'm sure," I said. "Miller Block Foundation market-rate ground leases with senior stability provisions, scholarships for apprenticeships, emergency funds for tenants during declared events." My voice didn't shake. "Caleb Miller and Brianna Miller are removed from all bequests." A bowling ball thundered down lane 12. Somewhere, a child squealed happily. The whole place vibrated like a heart that wouldn't quit. Daria set the stamp on the table like a little steel planet. "Witnesses." Manny slid onto the next chair, still in his apron, smelling faintly of onions and victory. "Brought my league buddy," he said, nodding to a man in a Hawks hoodie who raised a hand. "We're off buys tonight." We witnessed in the noisy light. I initialed margins, signed clean. Daria pressed her stamp. Kathunk, Kathunk. Each impression crisp as winter air. I tucked the originals back into the suitcase, layered between folders like eggs in a strong carton. My phone buzzed. The credit union's email blinked open. Temporary release confirmed. 24 hours. Another. Broker, ACH received. Rider locked. I let a breath out slow. One fuse snipped, a dozen more sparking. Anything else you need notarized while I've got ink? Daria asked. Just the past, I said, and snapped the suitcase shut. On the way out, I stopped by the arcade change machine for habit's sake and saw my reflection in the plexi. A woman with a freight-handled bag and a stare that could hold a line. The Hawks game tomorrow would pull half the town into one room with cameras. If the city wanted comfort, they could have it in public. If the bank wanted prudence, they could answer a question with everyone listening. If Caleb wanted to sell a story, he would have to tell it next to mine. I sat on the edge of a bowling seat and drafted the invite in my notes app. Plain words, no sugar. Halftime at the Cedar Ridge Hawks game, public conversation. Market Street insurance confirmation. Easement facts. Next steps for downtown. Open mic for city manager, bank rep, tenants, and family. Bring questions. Ruth Miller. I pasted it into an email to the tenants list, to the chamber, to Lyle, to the city's generic inbox that never answers until it does. I texted it to the local TV producer who owed me a favor from a snowstorm 5 winters ago. I sent it to Caleb and Bree with no commentary, the way you send truth and let it walk on its own legs. Bree replied instantly with a line of laughing emojis and a fresh video link. Some people can't accept change. Caleb's message came a beat later. Don't do this. Already did? I murmured, thumbs still, eyes on the lanes. A perfect strike bloomed at the far end, pins flying, the crowd giving the small whoop our town reserves for clean work done in public. I stood. The suitcase's wheels hummed across the tile, catching for just a second on the threshold like a throat catching on the word goodbye. Outside, the parking lot glittered with frost and possibility. The timer ticked to 34 hours, 12 minutes, and 48 seconds. I tightened my grip on the handle. No more private, please. No more back rooms. We were going to talk where everyone could hear. And when we did, the city would have to decide who owned the story of Market Street. Halftime smells like popcorn and floor polish. The Cedar Ridge Hawks gym glows a school bus yellow under the lights, and the pep band is brassy enough to rattle the flag ropes. I set my suitcase on the first row of the bleachers, brass tag catching and throwing the scoreboard glare like it wants a turn on camera. Ruth Miller, a sideline reporter in a red blazer, jogs over, mic cube flashing. We're live in 3, 2. The tally light winks red. Ms. Miller, what return do you expect post-renovation if the city avoids a shutdown? Cap rate 8.4. I say into the mic steady. On a net operating income of $612,000 at a $7.3 million valuation. $50,000 deductible on the leak. The rest covered by the policy rider already locked. Section limits 7 figures. Deductible is $50. The stands exhale, one body. A cheerleader drops a palm and doesn't pick it up. The reporter blinks once. Can you walk us through that? Gross potential rents at stabilized occupancy. 85% by Q3 if we stay open. Just under $1 million, I say. Back out vacancy, concessions, taxes, maintenance, your operating expenses, and you land at that NOI. 8.4 cap is fair for Cedar Ridge with the abatement we're negotiating. I nod toward the lane where the city manager pretends not to study me. Leak remediation is insured under the hazardous condition rider. Deductible is $50. I paid it this afternoon. There's been online conversation about your capacity. She tries softer. I pass every test your bank and accountant care to give. I say. I also keep receipts. If anyone has new criteria for visibility, I'll read that too. Just to be precise, she says. Are you asserting this without paperwork? I'm referencing it, I answer, turning the suitcase so the camera can see it. I brought the paperwork. All of it is public or lawfully obtained. Recorded easements, county inspections, broker binder, rider terms. These are written notes and excerpts from my own calls, no covert audio. One-party consent notes from my own conversations. Nothing hidden, nothing taped in a pocket. We do this clean. Up in the top row, Bree's lemon sweater glows like a highlighter. Her phone is up and hungry. Caleb sits 3 seats over, elbows on knees, jaw working. Ask the city manager. I add, handing the mic back. He can confirm the inspection number I filed and the remediation schedule he's holding. Producer waves the city manager forward. The band goes quiet without being told. I pick up the suitcase. The handle bites my palm just right. The timer on my phone ticks. 27 hours, 14 minutes, and 39 seconds. I roll the bag toward the center stripe. The wheels click over the scuffed paint like a second hand climbing. Time to unzip. I roll the suitcase to the painted hawk at center court and set it on its haunches like a little traveling desk. The band hushes. The brass tag winks at the lights. I unzip. Paper, I say, to the room, not just the lens. All lawfully obtained. Public records, filings from my own companies, and materials others posted publicly. I draw a red tab folder and hold the first sheet at chest height for the sideline camera. Exhibit A county recorder. Stamps, book and page numbers, tidy as graph paper. Parcels 308, 310, 312 Market. Owner of record Miller Block Partners, LLC. Easements recorded here and here granting ingress, egress, and utilities across the rear lots, including 414 Willow. I tilt the page. The lens drinks the date. Filed 3 years ago. On the deeds. No surprise. I lay it on a folding chair. A booster pushes forward like an altar. Exhibit B, City Leak Report. Yellow stock, official ink. Incident number, inspector's name, recommended remediation. There is a hazardous condition. Insurance requires informed action, not panic. Coverage confirmed within the rider. Exhibit C, binder and rider confirmation from Excel brokerage. Account lines redacted. Terms clear. Hazardous condition rider locked. Deductible paid. Business interruption cover active for affected tenants. The bank's compliance lead edges closer despite himself, lips moving as he reads. Exhibit D, accounts receivable ledger, Miller Block Partners. One neat page. Brianna Staging Company owes the LLC $12,400, 3 months unpaid. Net, 30, past due. Across the bleachers, Bree's lemon sweater tightens like it heard its name. And Exhibit E, I say, lifting a glossy printout with a QR code taped at the bottom. A screen grab posted publicly at 10:13 this morning. Caleb in our kitchen. Eviction notice lifted midward by Bree's ring light. The caption I've blocked still peeks at the edges. For legal protection. I'm not sharing any private recordings. I add clear. This was posted by others, publicly. I'm noting it because it contradicts statements used to freeze my funds. For my protection. The phrase here is, for legal protection. Not mine. Caleb stands without meaning to. His face moves through 3 ideas and sticks on none. Bree lifts her phone, sees the QR, lowers it. Every tenant, every lender, you have a right to know if our street is going to close. I say. It is not, because the owner with the obligation confirmed coverage. I tap A. You have a right to know whether a quick house sale overrides recorded access. Tap A again. It does not. Tap D. You have a right to know who owes whom. The city manager exhales and steps in, program creased in his fist. The reporter angles him the mic. Can you confirm the incident number? She asks. He looks at the leak report like it might nip and decides to trust his hand. Yes, he says, voice evening out. That matches the number I have. And if the rider is confirmed. He glances at the bank's compliance lead. Our hold was temporary and has been lifted. The compliance lead says into the air he didn't plan to address. Funds were available to pay the deductible. We appreciate Ms. Miller's cooperation. A rustle moves through the bleachers, the sound of a picture coming into focus. Lal pumps a fist. The florist, who hasn't seen me in 2 years, suddenly does. Caleb takes 2 steps down and stops at the rail. You planned this, he says, not loud, but the gym is a dish. It carries. You planned this to make me look. I planned this to keep people paid. I say, meeting his eyes. You can decide how you want to look. Bree tries for a smile that isn't joy. She's using paperwork against us. She tells the room and the echo of her following. Then read it. I say, setting the ledger and the leak report on the free throw line between us, centered on the hawk's eye. Read it out loud. Silence, then 1,000 small sounds, shoe soles, the scoreboard's buzz, the popcorn machine's tired wheeze. The clock noses toward the third quarter, but nobody moves. The city manager reaches for the mic like it's always been his job. The bank man drifts nearer, pulled by gravity or guilt. I close the suitcase halfway. The zipper teeth wait like a mouth about to speak. My timer glows. 26 hours, 41 minutes, and 3 seconds. Plenty of time for paper to do its work. Ms. Miller, the city manager says at last, eyes on the leak report, voice clean to the rafters. If I ask you to step to the center circle, will you stand there as an owner-partner while we make this decision in front of everyone? I step onto the hawk's eye with my suitcase at my calf like a small, patient dog. The city manager raises the mic. His tie is crooked the way ties get when something honest is happening. Cedar Ridge, he says, voice steadier than his hands. We will not shutter Market Street. With the insured remediation schedule Ms. Miller provided and rider confirmation in hand, we'll maintain controlled access while repairs proceed. We recognize Ruth Miller, owner of record and longtime operator, as a key partner in downtown revitalization. The words settle on me like a coat I earned. The bleachers answer with a sound that starts as breath and turns into applause. Clean, not wild. The bank's compliance lead edges forward, cheeks red. He half reaches for the mic, then remembers manners. I nod once. Cedar Ridge Community Credit Union regrets the disruption, he says. All holds are lifted. We're issuing a formal apology to Ms. Miller and assigning a dedicated commercial officer to Market Street effective today. Today, I echo and don't smile. Today, he repeats, and the crowd loosens. Relief you can hear. The reporter pivots toward the bleachers. Caleb Miller, do you want to respond? Caleb walks down the steps like they got taller. Up close, he's still the boy who had scraped knees. He takes the mic with both hands. I'm sorry, he says, and the PA gives the word a halo. Mom, Ms. Miller. I said things online and at the bank that weren't true. I tried to sell the house fast without reading. I got scared and proud and made you the problem because it was easier than admitting I was. He swallows. I withdraw any request to release the easement. I'll cooperate with whatever the foundation needs. Bree stands beside him, lemon sweater suddenly the wrong color for this moment. Her phone hangs at her side, screen dark. We were trying to set boundaries, she says, quieter now. Good, I say. Let's draw them in ink. The band can't help themselves. They play a two-bar riff like a period. The city manager steps toward me, hand out, not for a pat but for a shake between partners. I take it. His palm is colder than mine. I'd like to convene a working group next week. Tenants, city, bank, on the revitalization plan, he says into the mic, if you'll chair. I'll chair, I say. Open meetings. Minutes posted. Milestones published. The compliance lead nods like a student who's found the right page. And the credit union will staff a Market Street desk starting tomorrow. Bring paper forms, I add. People still write with pens. Across the court, Lal throws up both arms in a V. The florist claps with her hands high, eyes wet. Two girls in Hawks jerseys chant, Ruth, Ruth, and go pink when they realize I heard. I gather my exhibits, slide each back into the red-tabbed folder, and close the suitcase. The zipper draws a straight line. My timer reads 25 hours, 58 minutes, and 12 seconds. But the clock that matters has already turned. I look at Caleb. He looks back. We'll talk. I say low for us. He nods, nothing performative about it. Third quarter. The announcer calls, bright as a new page. The gym exhales. I lift the suitcase by its frayed handle so everyone can see the wear. We keep the street open, I say. We fix what leaks. We pay what we owe. And we stop pretending that being older makes you invisible. The cheer that comes isn't loud so much as unanimous. It feels like a door unlocking in every direction. By the time the Hawks were back on defense, the gym had turned into a pop-up office. The city manager flagged the producer for a quiet corner. The bank's compliance lead unholstered a tablet like he'd been waiting his whole career to type an apology. I set my suitcase on the scorer's table. The brass tag knocked twice, then rested, as if it knew we were finally counting things that count. "Ms. Miller," he said, voice steady now. "We've initiated an immediate advance from the carrier to your operating account for leak remediation." He turned the screen so I could see the numbers in the scoreboard glow. Initial disbursement, $200,000 for emergency work. Balance on invoices not to exceed $380. Business interruption pool set aside at $85, to be released to tenants as their claims are documented. "And the section limit?" I asked, tying off the math we'd all been staring at since morning. "Hazardous condition coverage up to $1.2 million per occurrence," he said. "Your overall property program remains in force on top of that." "Put it in writing," I said. A printer somewhere in the bowels of the school coughed up a sheet. He signed it, I countersigned, and Daria, summoned from her bowling league like a fairy godmother in sensible shoes, stamped it on the scorer's table. Kathunk. The band gave a quick flourish. The city manager stepped in with a folder that still smelled like council chambers. "Interim agreement pending formal vote Tuesday," he said. 3-year downtown tax abatement on qualifying improvements along Market. Estimated savings, about $70,000 a year, $210 over term. In exchange, publish your milestone plan, open book audits, and tenant stabilization covenants. He offered a pen. I read the 2 pages, found my name where it needed to be and the cities where they'd be held. "Add age-bias safeguards to the hiring incentives," I said, tapping the margin. 55 plus priority placement. He nodded, wrote it in, initialed. I initialed. Daria's stamp made the paper warm. Bree hovered at the base of the bleachers like a nervous understudy. Her phone stayed dark, which I took for good faith or low battery. A lawyer I knew by reputation. Shiny loafers, courtroom hair. Slid beside her, jaw tight with billable hours. He held out a letter already stapled. Men like him traveled with their own staples. "Ms. Miller," he said, crisp. "My client wishes to resolve potential claims regarding statements made about your capacity and conduct. Without admission." "Stop the recital," I said gently. "Let her speak for herself." Bree looked at the paper like it might bite. Then she lifted her chin and stepped to the open mic. "I'll post a full retraction tonight," she said. "Pinned for 90 days. Comments on. I misrepresented your capacity and your authority. I'm sorry. I'll pay $75,000 to the Market Street Block Fund, and I'll volunteer bookkeeping hours for 3 months. Net of your outstanding 12.4, I said, sliding Exhibit D toward her. The cash portion is 62.6. Wiring instructions are on the back. Her eyes flicked. She nodded. The lawyer opened his mouth. I closed it with one look. We all signed. Daria stamped. The brass tag on my suitcase tanged softly against the table like it agreed. She read the retraction out loud, no spin, no throat clearing. "I distorted facts about Ruth Miller's finances and decision-making," she said, looking at the town instead of her phone. "Please delete my old videos when you see them shared." The gym didn't cheer. It listened. That was better. Caleb waited until the pep band started again. Noise to hold us private. He came to the table empty-handed, which is how men come when they're ready to carry something real. "I can't sell the house," he said, voice low. "I get it. You can't sell the dirt," I corrected. "The house is sticks and hope. The land is covenant." He swallowed. "What do we do?" I opened a fresh folder from the suitcase labeled ground lease, residential. "You sign a long-term ground lease with the Miller Block Foundation," I said. 65 years, renewal options. Ground rent $1,500 a month, 2% annual escalator. You maintain, you insure, you pay taxes on the improvements. No transfer without the foundation's consent. If you default, cure periods are clear and fair. You stop treating land like a scratch ticket. He read. He looked up at me twice, as if to ask if this was love or correction. "Both," I said. "And neither. It's governance." He nodded. and I watched some boy idea lift off his shoulders and fly into the rafters to live with the pigeon. We signed. Daria stamped. I slid him a copy and put the original in the suitcase, the zipper teeth closing over it like a vault. Somewhere on the court, a kid hit a clean 3, and the sound was unmistakable. Net, then joy. By the end of the night, the email confirmations stacked like neat bricks. Carrier, $200,000 wired, advance. City, interim abatement agreement countersigned. Credit union, apology issued, dedicated officer assigned today. Bree, retraction posted, wire scheduled for 9 a.m. Volunteer commitment attached. Caleb, ground lease memorandum filed. Recorder appointment 8 a.m. Monday. I touched each one on my screen like counting beads. The timer on my phone rolled over 2,400 hours 03 and 55 seconds and felt suddenly ornamental. Lyle came down from the bleachers with a grin eyed last seen when the power came back after the winter blackout. You just built 3 storefronts out of air and paper, he said. Out of law and time, I said, and lifted the suitcase. The handle fit my hand like it had been waiting. A week later, the council chambers smell like dusted flags and fresh toner. I set my suitcase on the dais beside the little brass bell they bang when speeches go long. We're not giving speeches. We're writing rules. Name it, the city manager says. Invisible blocks, I answer. We fund what the system doesn't see. We pass one-pagers down the row, big print, plain language. Manny and Lyle stand in the doorway in clean shirts like witnesses. Daria waits by the clerk with her stamp ready. Program A, microloans for older entrepreneurs. I say, city match, 100,000. Miller Block Foundation, 150. Loans from 5 to 50,000. 3% fixed, 12 to 36 months. Collateral is inventory or receivables, not someone's house. Coaching required. Paper or online. Same day if the numbers pencil. I tap the footer. Underwritten by a regional CDFI. Independent committee. No cousin favoritism. The bank's compliance lead clears his throat on purpose. We'll staff a desk at Maple on Thursdays. Paper forms welcome. Capacity checks only for cause. Documented and appealable. Put it in the MOU, I say. Daria stamps the draft. Kathunk. Program B. The Anti-Ageism Pact. I continue. Tie every downtown incentive, tax abatements, facade grants, signage credits, to a 55-plus hiring commitment. Minimum, 20% of new entry-level hires or 2 positions, whichever is higher. Pay bands posted at point of hire, not fog-like, commensurate with experience. Quarterly reports go public. Miss a quarter? You cure it next quarter or the benefit pauses. A council member in Paisley raises a hand. Enforcement. Independent auditor. I say, sliding a contract. Hansen and Bloom. 90-day setup, then semi-annual audits. Findings published, names and numbers. Whistle-safe inbox run by the auditor, not the city. Anonymous allowed. Malicious flagged. The projector bumps to a dashboard mock-up. Big tiles. Bigger fonts. Metrics will publish. I say. Occupancy, retention, time to hire, average wage by band, age distribution, loan repayment, tenant satisfaction, petty crime stats. And we replace the museum of QR codes at City Hall with real counter hours. Paper forms stocked, 16-point font. If you can register a dog, you can file a leak remediation. The city attorney peers over his glasses. Legal frame. All above board. I answer. LLC funds restricted by charter. Public records for public decisions. Written notes from my own calls. No secret recordings. The Foundation's 990 shows sources and uses. No back rooms. The compliance lead adds, age bias training for every frontline employee within 60 days. Any elder hold requires a supervisor review and written notice citing the exact policy clause. Appeals answered in 48 hours. Put it in policy. I say, we've seen what, for your protection, can do when it's lazy. I slide a final page forward. Governance. Board of 5 voting members, 1 tenant, one 55-plus business owner, one youth apprentice, a city seat, a foundation seat. Open meetings, minutes posted, quarterly town halls at the Hawks gym because we like decisions loud. Targets, occupancy to 80 by Q2, 90 by year's end, 100 seniors through literacy by summer, 50 placed in jobs, petty crime down 10%. If we miss, we say it and fix it. All in favor? The city manager asks. The yes rolls through the chamber like a clean strike. No wobble, no pity pin. Gavels drop. Darius stamps the last page. The clerk hands me a copy still warm. I tuck it into the suitcase. The zipper closes with a sound like a line drawn straight. In the hallway, Bree touches my sleeve, careful. I'll run the bookkeeping clinics, she says. Free. Anyone scared of spreadsheets? I'll sit with them. You'll sit with them, I say. And when you charge, you post a rate card. Clear bands. No surprises. She nods. Caleb steps up not to talk, but to carry a stack of signs that red paper forms here. He passes them to the clerk and doesn't wait for praise. We are done treating visibility like a favor. 6 months later, I roll the suitcase down Market like it's a bell I ring by hand. The street smells like varnish and coffee instead of damp drywall. Where plywood once blinked like a lazy eyelid. Windows throw back the morning, fresh signage, clean glass. A barber pole twirling hope like candy. We mount the dashboard big where everyone has to trip over it. A foam board on the old florist's brick, laminated so rain can't argue. I trace the numbers while Manny reads them out like scores after a doubleheader. Occupancy up from 28 to 83%. He calls. Grin tucked in his cheek. Trend line still north. Retention 89. Lyle adds, tapping his tile with a ballpoint. A woman in a denim jacket, seamstress, 71, waves her certificate like a pennant. 120 seniors completed financial literacy, she says. I can read my lease like a menu now. 47 placed in jobs. The city manager reports, tie straight for once. On payroll with pay bands posted. Petty crime down 18. The chief adds, a line he's learned to say without trying to own it. We hang our misses where our wins hang, too. 2 storefronts still dark. A cafe closed on Tuesdays because the owner's knees give out by noon. We read those facts out loud so they can't grow teeth in the dark. Inside Maple, the folding table bears permanent scuffs from elbows that buried shame and lifted math. Bree sits at one end with a ring binder and a laptop that learned to like paper. She talks a baker through a cash flow graph with a patience I now trust. Your break-even is lower than your fear, she says, sliding a pencil until the numbers make human sense. She doesn't touch the keyboard without asking, just points until the baker nods. At City Hall, the wall of QR codes is gone. 2 real people sit behind the counter at posted hours. A stack of paper forms in 16-point font leans like a friend. A sign says we accept pens. I watch a carpenter fill out a permit while his grandson sounds out the words. The clerk stamps it without making them invent a password that hates vowels. Our quarterly town hall at the Hawks gym feels less like spectacle and more like a standing meeting. The band runs scales. The popcorn machine wheezes. Darius' stamp keeps time. Kathunk, Kathunk. Hansen and Bloom run the audit slides. We met our targets, missed 2 small ones, and wrote up exactly why. Afterward, 2 council members from neighboring towns introduced themselves at center court like kids asking to sit at a lunch table. Pine Hollow wants the microloan playbook. Elk Grove asks how we wrote the anti-ageism pact so clean it slid through. Steal with citation, I tell them. Improve if you can. Late afternoon, I will the suitcase past fresh paint and open doors. The sun warms my knuckles on the handle. A teen I know mostly as a hoodie asks if he can carry it. No, I say, handing him the dashboard instead. Carry that. He posts the board back into its frame. People stop and read without being asked. A retiree in a bright scarf cries a little, the way you do when something is finally what it said on the box. At the far end of the block, Caleb, in a work jacket, sawdust salted into the seams, lays out a Saturday volunteer list. Ladders, trays, tape, no opinions. He doesn't look up. He doesn't have to. The street answers for him. Steady boots on concrete, a laugh without apology. Music leaking out from somewhere that isn't a phone. The suitcase clicks time against the pavement while the town keeps tempo. We are, against our habits and our excuses, on beat. Dawn paints Maple Diner the color of a clean receipt. Steam ghosts off the coffee mugs. The neon open sign hums itself awake. I set my suitcase on the last booth, habit, not need, and pull a small box from inside. The brass tag taps the vinyl. A polite knock before a goodbye. Inside the box. An old service elevator key, square-toothed and ugly as determination. I carried it 27 years ago on a ring clipped to my belt loop. Back when my name wasn't on any door and my title was, "Hey, could you?" That elevator hauled more sacks of flour than my back ever should have. Taught me where weight belongs. Manny wipes down the counter with the reverence of a man polishing a wedding ring. "You sure?" he asks, nodding at the frame I brought. "Sure," I say. I lay the key on black velvet and press the glass shut. A small brass plate reads, "First lift. Ruth Miller, operator." I hang the frame beside the dashboard, just high enough you have to look up. The key looks smaller than it felt back then. That's how weight works when you move it. Through the front window, Caleb is already on the sidewalk in his work jacket. Clipboard in hand, sawdust salted into the seams like snow. Volunteers cluster, retirees, teens, 2 nurses in clogs. He points, listens, writes. When he spots me, he touches 2 fingers to the brim of a cap he doesn't wear and mouths, "Got it." We meet halfway between Maple and the curb. Neither of us reaches for a hug we don't need to prove. "You eat?" ask. "After the first coat," he says. "Good order," I answer, and we both turn back to our lists. Inside, I set the canvas suitcase on the counter beside the Miller Block Foundation charter in a clear clip frame, the notary seal still raised like a thumbprint. The brass tag catches a spear of early sun and glints against the embossed seal. Paper and road, owner and right. I take my place at the folding table, pick up my pen, and start the day. When they treat you as invisible, the deeds still know the owner. Have you been underestimated because of age, appearance, or role? Tell us in the comments. If this story hit home, subscribe so you don't miss more invisible strength stories.